Before we get into like introductions of ourselves, SJPLA, if you're not familiar with us, as well as the fellowship, before we get into that, we're going to go into the agenda about what we're going to do in the next hour. And we're going to kick it off in SJP style, where we ask a question of the day. And we're going to ask you to respond off mute or in the chat, but we'll get there in a second. Let me copy this for a sec. But here's the agenda, just so you know what we're up to. Welcome agenda, question of the day. Kelly and I will introduce ourselves. We'll go over the fellowship. We're going to go over some of the details, the supports, and the eligibility. A lot of nitty-gritty stuff in there. We'll give some kind of space for questions along the way. We're going to talk about some potential site placements that we're currently working on. We're working on securing these, confirming them. So by the time that we invite people to apply, you'll see the potential sites. I'll go over some of the details, fine print on selection process and timeline, just so you have an idea of, between now and May, what we're going to be doing. And then we're going to open it up for Q&A. All right, so if you're eating lunch, feel free to be video off. If you're driving, be video off. We'll get to Q&A, and when we do Q&A, we invite you to turn on your video so we can see your face. That's all. Sounds good? All right, here's the question of the day. I'm going to add it in the chat for those of you who are busy or doing something. Question of the day. We're open it to everyone. Who is someone that inspires and motivates you in the work to end homelessness? We'll take a few minutes to just answer that. Who is someone that inspires and motivates you in the work to end homelessness? Feel free to add it in the chat. Kelly, I'm gonna give that to you first if there's someone that comes to mind.
Yes, I'm so happy to go. Hey, y'all, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here. This is going to sound like I read much more than I do, but I just happened to prepare a presentation for any of you that work at PATH for their Black History Month. And so I was looking at a lot of Black landowners and Black real estate sort of moguls, and I came upon the story of Biddy Mason, which I already knew somewhat, but she was a Black landowner in downtown Los Angeles. She has a park named after her in LA. She owned some of the sort of most prominent real estate in Los Angeles. And what I love about her is she made it happen. She walked across the country when she was enslaved. She gets to California, she's free, and then goes back to get her children and her family out of slavery, and then came back and built, tons of wealth in Los Angeles and provided services. So Biddy Mason inspires me, and yeah, excited to keep sharing her story and learning about others. Hi, everyone. It's so good to see you and meet some of you for the first time. I'm Kelly Poole. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the director of our Racial Equity and Homelessness Initiative here at Social Justice Partners. I started my career about 12 years ago now, which feels long, far away, but I was a direct service provider at Chrysalis. I did employment case management and case management predominantly for folks who were housing insecure and justice involved, and have done a lot of work around criminal justice reform or abolition, a lot of work around racial equity. And now I spend most of my time doing work with people, like leadership development and thinking about how we support and strengthen our workforce so that we can ultimately end homelessness and create better outcomes. So I'm really glad to be here with Frank to tell you more about this awesome fellowship opportunity.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everyone. My name is Frank Romero Crockett. I'm the program manager here at SJPLA in the Racial Equity and Homelessness Initiative. I've been at SJP for the last almost 2 years. Yeah, 2 years. And then before that, I spent about 5-6 years at United Way of Greater LA. I worked in their kind of policy advocacy, organizing, and communications around the Everyone In campaign. So I helped kind of launch that. Before that, worked in actually another fellowship. I was working at Coro, Southern California. Many of you probably know that organization and the fellowships and programs that they do. I worked there for a number of years that kind of help with their branding, marketing. I was a fellow myself. And then I have years of experience working with undergraduate students in kind of similar programming, off-campus programming, working with different nonprofits for a long time. So all my life has been nonprofit work, born and raised in LA County in Rolling Heights. And on the side, I'm a DJ. I love music, and I love kind of bringing a vibe to different events. You all know. So that's a little bit about us. I'm going to get a little bit into who SJP is in case you are not familiar with Social Justice Partners. Our mission is that we invest in, expand, and connect communities, advancing racial and social justice. You probably see that a lot if you have received our emails. Not only do we have the Hilton Foundation Fellowship, but we also have a Racial Equity and Homelessness Fellowship, which we're having an info session about tomorrow. We work with different executive directors in our Systems Change Accelerator cohort, which goes on with the Fast Pitch event if you receive those emails. But we do a lot of work in healing justice, community care, anti-racism for white people courses, as well as work on liberatory workplace culture. So a lot of our work is grounded in justice-centered models, and we spread that through community building, a lot of trainings, courses, philanthropic practices, and just kind of leading by our own example in the work that we try to do in our work environment. But just a heads up, we are not a housing provider. We are not a service provider in our work. Our work is revolved around people, the work that you do. How do we improve that? How do we expand that? So community is at the heart in all that we do. So that is a little bit about Social Justice Partners. I'm going to pass it on to Kelly to talk about the initiative.
Thanks, Frank. I love hearing, I just love our organization. So it makes me happy. And I love hearing the way you describe it, Frank. It is very multifaceted. So many of you might know this, that we started about 3 years ago now. I founded and launched the Racial Equity and Homelessness Initiative here at SJP to think about how we support the workforce of the sector. So you all know, you're experts, and you know that in the city and the county, we received hundreds of millions of dollars to pour into ending homelessness around 2016 and 2017 as a result of some big ballot measures. And we're so excited about those resources. And I think that one of the gaps sort of in the sector is really our focus and intentional development of the people who work every day to end homelessness. And so the vision behind this initiative was to focus deeply and make deep investments in people leaders. And we do that in 3 ways. So we focus on the stream of incoming talent and individuals into the sector by trying to share opportunities like this. How do I get into the public sector? How do I work to end homelessness? And share other job opportunities. We have an entire stream of work around equipping existing workers and leaders in the sector to lead through a lens of racial equity. So that's where we run our Racial Equity Fellowship. We do community care and well-being sessions so that leaders are equipped and strengthened to be great individual leaders, but also larger systems thinkers. And then we know that we cannot end homelessness unless we retain a strong, dedicated workforce of people. And so we focus on a 3rd stream of work that's around retention. And that's retaining leaders through systems change and policy change, really at the organizational level. So we look at how do we get money out directly to workers? So we run a couple grant programs to provide stipends and grants to workers in the sector. We are doing a living wage and pay equity study right now to look at cost of living and what it really means to pay workers in the homeless response sector a living wage. And then we also work exclusively with some executive directors and CEOs in the space. So this initiative is well-rounded. We're really taking a three-prong approach to thinking about strengthening the people and the leaders in our sector. And this fellowship is part of them. So I'll tell you just a little bit, and then Frank will get you in the details, and then we'll pause for questions. But this Conrad and Hilton Policy and Systems Change Fellowship started as a desire to create more pathways into public sector leadership or government, right? So there's nonprofits that work to end homelessness, many of you are part of or volunteer with, and then there are public sector partners like the county, the city, LASA is a quasi, public sector institution, cities across, the county of LA. So these public sector institutions, how do we get people in at a point early enough in their career that they're interested about how we end homelessness and how government institutions help or hinder that? So a couple years ago, United Way of Greater Los Angeles hosted a year, I guess 2 years of this fellowship. They learned a lot about how they did it. And then we began a few years ago to be in conversation about what it would look like to run sort of version 2.0 of the fellowship. And so we are entering this eligibility session and application period is for the second cohort. The goal is to fast track frontline direct service leaders into public sector positions. So Frank will talk about, more about the ideal candidate. And the importance of the fellowship is really to shore up a group of new public sector leaders that have lived experience, have a racial equity analysis. So an analysis that includes structural racism and inequities, and they go into the government prepared with those things so that every decision they make, small, large, medium size, is really being made through that lens. We wanted multi-directional mentorship. So not only are you coming in to this fellowship and working under a senior leader with lots of experience and learning from them, but they're also learning from you because the ideal candidate is coming from the front lines. They know how service provision actually works. They know about, CES and the SPDAT and all the things. So it's this bi-directional mentoring. And then our, ultimate goal is that the leadership and those with the most positions of power really reflect the community of folks experiencing homelessness. So that is one of the things that we try to achieve through our candidate pool as well. So lots of background. Frank's going to tell you some weeds about what the fellowship actually looks like.
Yeah. So if you learned about the Hilton Foundation Fellowship, you probably learned also about racial equity. So we're actually just launched both selection processes for both Hilton and racial equity. And so we just wanted to take a second to make these distinctions. Both of them have kind of similar selection processes, which I'll get to in a second. The first part, which you'll probably know about, is filling out an eligibility form, which is a very quick form for us to find if you meet the eligible requirements to move into the next section. I'll get into those details in a second. But just to throw out there which fellowship program is right for me, here are some of the distinctions that we want to be super clear about. For the Hilton Fellowship, this will require that you leave your current job. So you will have to quit your job before the start date of this fellowship, which is September 2023. You will have to leave your job, your current job, to commit to 2 years working in the public sector. So Hilton Foundation, you have to leave your current job, and then you'll be 2 years in the public sector. For a racial equity fellowship, you could stay at your current job. So you could maintain your full-time job and just do monthly sessions with us with some events here and there. But Hilton Foundation, it's a bigger commitment. For Hilton Foundation, we are looking for folks with frontline worker experience, direct service experience. So you could be a program manager, you could have years of experience on the front lines. For racial equity, we are looking for folks who are kind of in the mid to senior leadership level. So you might be a manager. We have a lot of directors in our program. You could even also have the title of vice president. but your intention is for Racial Equity Fellowship is to move into the C-suite or executive level positions within the next 5 to 10 years or so. For the Hilton Foundation, in terms of years of experience, Hilton Foundation is 3 to 5 years of frontline worker experience. And then for racial equity, it's 5 to 7 years experience in the sector and maybe a few years experience in a managerial or directorship kind of role, managing people, managing larger budgets, etc. And then last thing with the distinction for the Hilton Fellowship, you will again be entering the public sector, leaving the nonprofit service delivery and going directly into the public sector, which might be a big shift. So we just want to make that very, very clear. For racial equity, we have fellows who are both in the nonprofit and the public sector who are doing this year-long fellowship on a with monthly sessions. There's a lot of details in there. I'll pause, Kelly, if there's anything that I might have missed or if you want to kind of emphasize, just in case.
No, I think maybe we can just pause for questions from you all. I know we're going to do that again later, but any questions or just things we can clarify for you about the fellowships? Yeah, Suzette, go ahead.
So I'm a grown woman, so I'll be 59 in May. And I have several years in management, director, and directorship prior to my displacement into homelessness. In the last decade, nevertheless, I have taken a great lead in regards to grassroots advocacy in my community and working towards shifting policies and so on and so forth. I don't work for a direct nonprofit. I am connected to several, and I'm also the nationalized and homelessness representative for Los Angeles. I'm currently vice chair of the Continuum of Care Board, where HUD dollars comes into Los Angeles, and I'm currently running for chair of the Continuum of Care Board. I'm co-chair of SPA for our Central Providers Collaborative in regards to grassroots advocacy work being done here in Skid Row. But again, and I'm a full-time student studying community advocacy, social policy, and finishing my degree in health science education with a minor in organizational leadership. Again, I am not a quote-unquote employee of any sector.
So I think the question's a little bit around eligibility. I would say, and Frank and I can actually talk about this. I don't know if it's a hard requirement that the thing that you're in today is the nonprofit, right? Some people are, in transition, but it sounds like you have experience working as a nonprofit. I think we'll talk about this maybe next, whatever. But what I'll say now is for folks that are discerning this fellowship, the Hilton Fellowship that's in the public institutions, the environment of the fellowship is a full-time commitment with no conflicts of interest. And so a lot of times, Suzette, I think for folks like yourself that are on board and nationally doing things, the trade-off is, can I come into a public sector institution and take a role where the institution itself might have policies and things around that? And so I'll say that to anyone, like, this is a full-time role and you are subject to the rules of the institution. And we are super supportive and we help think about supervision stuff. But if the institution itself has a no public comment policy, no, serving on boards, no part-time student, no outside work, then that's a real thing you should consider. And not just you, but other folks that think about this. It's a full-time role. Whereas as Frank was sharing the other fellowship, that one, you do need to be employed at a nonprofit. But it's not a full-time commitment, et cetera. I was going to say, no, unfortunately, Suzette, that one you wouldn't be eligible for. That one is focused directly on folks who are in, leadership currently at nonprofits. So, but that's a good question. Thanks for letting us share.
Yeah, no, super good.
But I think you know, there's a caveat there. I mean, because I think that's kind of the gray area as far as those of us who are grassroots advocacy. I am focused on leadership. Again, I'm part of several nonprofits that we're doing work where our work is, you know, very much in regards to leadership in this area of homelessness, and leadership as it relates to those of us with direct lived experience of homelessness, and so forth. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's a gray area. So I'm gonna push back on that. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
And I think one thing to note, and we'll go into some of the eligibility for Hilton and some of the details, but you know, we designed the application process where folks are submitting an eligibility form, which is super fast. So if you are not sure whether you want to do Hilton Fellowship and go into the public sector, or do racial equity, stay at your job, and then, you know, have a focus of going into the executive or C-suite, you can submit an eligibility form for both. We want to encourage folks to fill out the eligibility. We will scan for eligibility and then make the invitation for folks to apply, in which people will go into a kind of a longer application form with more narrative questions. But Suzette, definitely, you know, I would fill out the eligibility for either one, which one you're interested in, and then we could kind of maintain that conversation, look for the nuances, and see if this would be a right fit in either way. So in this case, okay, racial equity. For the Hilton Foundation, I'm going to share a little bit about more of the details, and then I'm going to get into the eligibility. Again, to reiterate, for the Hilton Fellowship, this is a 2-year full-time paid fellowship. You will be receiving a stipend from SJP Los Angeles in the total of $85,000 per year, and that's going to be paid semi-monthly, so twice a month. And in this case, you are an independent contractor, so you will receive a 1099 at the end of the year. Your stipends will be taxable. So for the Hilton Fellows that are in cohort 1 right now that are working at different sites, they're receiving their stipend and they're receiving a lot of money, and they're like, oh, wow, this is a lot of money. They have to put aside money for their taxes. So that is on them. So a little caveat on the bottom, stipends are taxable. We do report these payments to the IRS, but it's up to the Hilton Fellow to be responsible for securing their own medical, dental, and vision insurance. And because of that, that's why we increased the stipend when the fellowship came to SJP. So now it's at 85,000, gives you a nice buffer to kind of take care of benefits and also taxes. The commitment for the Hilton Fellowship is that we have quarterly peer learning and support sessions. So different from the racial equity, we will be meeting every 3 months, just for 2 hours in the morning, just kind of check in with the cohort and see how they're doing with their role and how they're doing with their adjustments. You'll also get an opportunity to connect with our wider SJPLA network. Again, we have our racial equity fellowship and 2 cohorts that have gone through that. So we want to be able to connect both Hilton and racial equity fellows. You will be working with an executive level or senior level supervisor at your role in the public sector, learn from them. And last detail before we get into eligibility is that cohort 2 for Hilton Fellowship begins September of 2023. So we're going through this selection right now. The onboarding might take some time, but then you'll quit your job sometime in August or however you want to do it. But sometime in the summer, you'll leave your current job to start your role September, I think 1st or 4th, whatever the day is on Monday, at your new role. So that is a little bit of some of the details. Eligibility. Here are the eligibility requirements for Hilton Fellowship. 1, a commitment to work in the public sector for 2 years full-time. 2, possesses the curiosity and drive to better understand public sector systems. You'll be kind of behind the curtain, kind of understanding the funding streams, understanding the people involved. You'll probably be in a lot of different meetings with folks within the sector. So having that curiosity and ways that you could bring your knowledge and perspective into basically understanding the systems. That was a really great explanation. Next is 3 to 5 years of experience in home service delivery, frontline work. Next is having direct, lived, or proximate experience of homelessness. You must commit to attending all 8 quarterly sessions over the course of the 2 years. And last one is have a bachelor's degree or higher. And this is kind of a requirement for going into the public sector. I'll pause right there, Kelly, if there's anything that I missed or anything that you want to expound on.
No, that feels good. Curious if folks have questions.
Any questions about eligibility or some of the details on the fellowship? Okay, if not, I'm going to pass it on to Kelly.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
So I would be getting my bachelor's this year, May. So and then when it comes to like the work experience, I have done like certain internships, but I'd say maybe 2 years worth of like internships that like involve like homelessness. So is that something that would disqualify me from being eligible?
No, I don't think so. You would be, so the thing would start in September, so you would have your bachelor's by September. I think like Frank said, I would submit your application and then we can flesh out the gray areas on the back end. There might be an issue with the number of years. But yeah, you should.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Does that seem right, Frank?
Yeah, I'd say so. And then in the chat, I see from Velvet, do you have opportunities in Orange County? We do not. This is all for both fellowships, all in LA County. From Anissa, and I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Since this is considered full-time, how does sick and vacation hours work? So this is a little bit of the gray area that we're working out with the different sites. Now you will have to follow the kind of time off, sick days, vacation of your site, and different sites have kind of different requirements. For SJP, we will still continue to pay for your stipend. So if you take 2 weeks off that's approved by your supervisor at your site, we will pay you during that time. So it's a little bit of a gray area because it's an independent contractor position with your site, but then you're receiving your stipend from SJP. So hopefully that makes sense. You will still receive your stipend, but how you work out your time off depends on the site, but you don't have to submit any type of timesheets to us. There's a lot of like details in there, but hopefully that makes sense. Anything else? All right, Kelly, would you like to talk about the different sites?
Yes. And yeah, Velvet, seeing your note about sick time. Yeah, so all of these agencies and institutions have sick time policies in compliance with like the California mandated state, time of accruing a couple hours per pay period, all that stuff. So you will get, legally mandated sick time allotments. And I would say, I don't know, this is maybe my own perspective, but I think the fellowship probably allows for a lot more flexibility than if you were an actual employee in terms of, like Frank said, we'll still pay you during that time, kind of up to anyhow. If you have questions about that, you can ask them on your eligibility form, but yeah, you will definitely get sick time. So where might I be working, right, is the question. We are in partnership with all of the big public agencies, LA City, LA County, LASA, City of Pasadena. So we've sort of put the word out to any public sector agency. These are smaller cohorts, so they are 4 to 6 or 4 to 8 fellows at a time. So the number of sites or the specific site placements are limited because there will only be a certain amount of fellows. So we are working to solidify commitments from public sector sites this year. And when the application form opens, and Frank will talk through the details there, you'll hopefully get to see in real time which positions you might be applying for. Our goal this year, and don't hold us to it because we don't know how this will turn out, but we're trying to get a sort of elected official, public sector official cohort together. So with some of the city council offices or board of supervisor offices or otherwise. The placements this year, we have 3 fellows at Department of Health Services, DHS. So some are working on the Housing for Health team, some are working under sort of communications, and some are working on the Cal AIM initiative. And we have other folks at different sites. So just know you'll be there. I think Frank will say this or has said this. You have an opt-in at every step of the process. So you can take the job, not take it. It's not, just take it step by step. Submit the eligibility form. If you get invited to apply and you're still interested, submit your application. Once you submit your applications, if you're interviewing and you're like, I don't know about this, defer. There's steps of mutual opting in along the way. And then the other thing I'll say, Velvet, we tell people, and that's one of the things we'll talk about, is the stipend is $85,000. Frank said, contractor, you get all the money. So one of the ways to discern, is this opportunity right, is to really be in deep conversation with your financial folks, your benefits counselors, your husband, wife, partner, spouse. What does this mean? I would leave my health insurance. Is my rent going to go up? Is that going to affect, my income? All of those things. We really want people to individually unpack those for themselves, because we don't know, and we don't have any control over, if someone were to take this role and they were on a housing voucher, we wouldn't be able to control, how HUD or the city or the county responds to the income. So that's something that folks should take into account before they apply. And Frank, I wasn't sure, is this me? I can definitely do.
Oh, yeah.
Started talking about this, but a little bit about what you can expect. So like I said, you can expect a day job, right? 9 to 5, 8 to 5, whatever the schedule is, with a public sector office or program. So you'll be assigned, a bucket of work. You'll have a site supervisor that is the public sector person. And this is really to think about, if you're someone who's navigated frontline services, someone who's been a case manager, program managers, or even, a director at some point in the nonprofit side, this is really about, okay, how do I get into the public sector and think about what's the public sector's role? They set budgets, they set policies, they implement, buckets of work. So if you're interested in channeling your experience and your passion there, this is a great opportunity to do it. Because we have a number of fellowship cohorts, from the racial equity fellows to the alumni of this program, to our accelerators, to the EDs, you'll be sort of introduced and connected to a network of leaders. It'll increase your chances and your opportunity for future jobs in the government. So many of you know that government positions, it's notoriously hard to get in there. When you're doing the application, they ask you about years of experience, and it's all sort of wonky what counts. These 2 years in the fellowship count towards service in your class of item. So that's a very wonky way to say they count towards the service credit that makes you eligible to get on a certain item in the county or city or wherever you're working. So it's a great way to get into the public sector. And then the last piece is receiving executive level supervision and support from your, public sector boss, from the time that you're together with us in the fellowship convenings, just all around feeling really supported in your career.
Is there no question? Okay. It's about 13 minutes left, so we might go over slightly. I definitely want to get into the selection process. So right now, the eligibility forms were launched at the end of February. We're giving about 4 weeks for the word to get out and for people like yourselves to submit your eligibility forms. And that will be due at the end of this month, March 24th. We will take a few days to scan the eligibility forms for if people meet the minimum eligibility requirements. And if so, a few days later on March 29th, we will invite you to apply. So if you meet the 6 to 7 eligibility requirements, we will send you an invitation to apply. We'll give another about 4 weeks for you to submit that. At that time, when you receive your invitation to apply, you will see the confirmed sites. So you'll see the job profiles. You'll see who the site supervisor is with their bio and their headshot. And then you will provide us with a ranking of these, out of these 5 or 6 sites, these are the 3 that I'm most interested in and would love to have an interview with. Applications will be due about 4 weeks later on April 28th. And in that, there will be more narrative questions. You will submit a professional resume. You will provide 2 references. And again, like I said, you'll provide a top 3 ranking of the sites that you are most interested in and that you could see yourselves working with. From there, we will take your eligibility form and application responses, resume, all that, and we're going to send that to the different site supervisors to go over. They will look at all the applications and then they will decide who they will do an interview with. So they'll contact you. So they will be conducting interviews. SJPLA will not be conducting interviews in this case. So you'll go over, for the folks that you've ranked, those 3, you might get an interview with all 3. You might get an interview with just 1, or you might not receive an invitation to interview at all. So we're just making that clear. You might get 3, you might get 4 interviews, who knows, or you might not get any interviews at all. Again, the site supervisors are going to be reviewing these documents and then reaching out. All those interviews, for the most part, take place during the week of May 15th to the 19th. So you'll conduct your interviews, you'll go through that process. Some interviews trickle in the next week or 2 after, sometimes 3 weeks after, but a majority of the interviews will take place during that 1 week in May. So just a heads up. Double opt-in. So this is a ranking and matching process with a double opt-in. What does that mean? So what that means is you have choice or agency at any point of the process to say, I did the interview, I was very excited about these sites, I did the interview, met the supervisor, and I don't feel like this is the right time to commit to 2 years in the public sector. None of these are of interest to me. You can say, I like to remove my name from the process entirely, or you could defer to another cohort the following year, starting in September 2024, which is way far from now. Sites as well have the option, after ranking you, reading your resume, interviewing you, they could decide whether they would like to continue and be a site this year for the next 2 years, or they could also defer for a following cohort. So once the applicant and the site both rank, if there is a match, so if a site supervisor says, I would like to be matched with this person, this is my number 1 person, and you said that site is my number 1 site, then that would be a perfect match. We would then, SJP, communicate with the site and the applicant to say, would you like to confirm this match? If you both confirm, then you're a Hilton Fellow. Mind you, you have to go through some onboarding processes, but there's a lot to it, and we do the ranking and matching and the double opt-in, mainly to make sure that both the site and the applicant are willing to go through this process and say, we are committing to each other for the next 2 years. A lot in there, but hopefully that makes sense. And then from May 22nd all the way through August, that is the time that we do the matching process. Sometimes interviews will go on until the end of May or even trickle into June because we're trying to find the right match for the site as well as the applicant. So we'll continue to confirm matches. Once you make a match, you have about from May to August, roughly around like 3 months or so, to do your orientation, to onboard you, to do any background check requirements that you have to do in order to receive that position. And in that time frame, you'll quit your job, you'll take your vacation, use your vacation time, whatever it might be. But we give a very long window for folks to kind of make that transition. And then, of course, we'll make the payment process plans and get you all set up for the eventual fellowship start date, which is going to happen somewhere between September 1st and September 15th. So I'll pause there to see if anyone has questions about specifically, if you have questions about the ranking matching process. Suzette, yes.
This isn't for me, but I'm just curious to know, what if someone chose not to quit their job and worked out something with their current employer so that, you know, they could work part-time or work on the weekends or work at night? I mean, would that be a problem for them?
Yeah, I think so. Part of the commitment is that since it is a full-time job, and you know, different sites will have different kind of time commitments, whether it's some might be a regular kind of 9 to 5. Other sites might require some weekend work or working above the 40 hours. And we will know that in the job profiles, but we are asking applicants to commit for the 2 years full-time with the site and not have any type of part-time position on the side. Jessica, if we apply to the first cohort and we're not selected, ultimately have elected to have our application moved to cohort 2. Is the application ready for the applicant pool, or do we have to start the process over? That's a good question. Because we're still working out the kinks to our application process, we are actually encouraging folks to reapply. So eligibility form, Jessica, if you can fill out the eligibility form again, it's a short form. It takes probably no more than 10 minutes. And then because you were invited to apply the last time, I'm assuming that you meet the minimum eligibility requirements. We'll send you the invite to apply. At that moment, Jessica, we could work out something where I could send you your old application for you to fill out, or maybe copy and paste some of your responses, or if you want to kind of edit or tweak your responses. It might be good just to kind of tweak your application, update it with some of your work experience in the last few months, just to present that to the different site supervisors. Hopefully that makes sense. Kimberly says, if successfully hired, does your organization pull candidates for positions, or is this considered conflict of interest? Kelly, do you want to take that one? I'm not sure if I understand.
That's what I was going to say. What does that mean? Or is it, does your organization pull candidates for position? Kimberly, if you're still on and you can, feel free to, come off mute.
Okay, hi. What I was asking, because my aim is to work for you guys in the future. So there you go.
Kimberly's our biggest fan.
Yes, I am.
Kimberly's laying it all out.
Yes, I'm
Love
very
it.
direct. I'm very direct.
We would likely not, while we do not believe that organizations own people, I imagine it would be hard to meet the requirements of a role that we had while you were holding a fellowship role, but we don't, we don't get in the weeds on, non-competing and poaching and all of that. People are allowed to apply for whatever they want, and we want the right fit for the right jobs to get the right job. So
understanding. Okay, that's why I asked you, was it conflict of interest? So just want to make sure. So I'm going to go through the I'm going to commit myself to the fellowship position, but then I'm going to acquire, I'm sure, new skills and so forth. And then I'll probably be ready in the
Nice.
future. Yeah. So, okay. I love your agency. I do.
Thank you.
That's a great
But,
compliment.
for your calls and your purpose and everything. So we
I
need
appreciate
that. Because I'm tired of walking over bodies on the concrete.
Mm.
I had a business downtown, and that's when I recognized that it's sad.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm,
Well, thank you
sad.
for that. Thank you for your directness, Kimberly. I want a job with SJP. That's what I'm looking for.
I know.
So-
I like it.
Yeah.
Kid.
I'm at that level.
Mhm.
Because you guys can really make changes. We need a sea of changes, and we need it fast.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is a moral obligation,
Mhm.
commitment. So,
For sure. For sure.
yeah. I've been
Any-
taking care of the homeless since I was 8 years old. So I'm very passionate. Okay, I'm gonna let you move forward.
That's all good. It's all good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Velvet.
Anyone have any questions about the selection process? Is the ranking matching process clear? If not, we can clear that up right now. Okay, all good, all good. Appreciate that. All right, so we're going to be closing up our time right now. A few important things that we want to note and reemphasize. A couple things. One, again, this is a 2-year commitment where you will be an independent contractor. You will receive a 1099. That means that you have to handle your own taxes and also your benefits. Everyone's tax and benefit situations are different. So this is where you're going to have to start having these conversations with somebody who helps you with your finances, your doctor, etc. Of if you're going to apply for this Hilton Fellowship. And again, you have time. You have time all the way up until like interview week, if you interview, to get these things in order to make sure, yes, I will commit to this 2 years. Yes, I will be receiving an $85,000 stipend per year. This is how I'm going to handle the back end stuff and things to take care of myself with my benefits. 2, and this has been a question for a lot of folks, is does this qualify your 2-year time working in the public sector qualify for public service loan forgiveness, also known as PSLF? And after a lot of research, a lot of conversations with some of our tax lawyers as well as site supervisors, it does not qualify for PSLF because you are an independent contractor, and neither SJPLA nor your placement site in the public sector is considered a qualifying employer. So we just want to be super clear on that. For some folks, they have decided not to apply because of that, because you are just 1 year or 2 years away from student loan forgiveness. We totally understand that, but we just want to make that clear up front. And then the last 2 things, again, if you're filling out your eligibility form, great. I would say start working on your resume and start thinking about your 2 references. Resumes take a long time to do. We could send out some resources in case you need some help on ways to kind of either put together the content of your resume or even formatting, but start working on your resume right now. It's a good practice. Even if you don't get an interview, it's a good practice to get this updated, looking nice, looking sharp. And then last but not least, as Kelly mentioned, start talking to your people. Start talking to your partner, your family about this possibility of quitting your job. What? Yes, quitting your job to work for 2 years in the public sector. This might mean talking to your current supervisor to talk about opportunities for growth in your organization, because who knows, they might not want to lose you. They might say, actually, there's this director role that we want to consider you for. So consider all your options before you go full on to Hilton Fellowship. You might get a better opportunity staying at your organization or even applying for other organizations out there. Is there anything I'm missing? Kelly? That's about it.
The only thing I was going to say, and I think we will add this, and I know we're at time. Thanks for being here with us, y'all. I think we'll send some other resources also. So there's a list of a few other fellowships that we can give you the names of. We want everyone to keep investing in their professional development. So if this opportunity or the Racial Equity Fellowship aren't the right fit for you at the right time, just keep putting it out there. Make sure that you're getting your professional development in. So we'll send that also.
All good. Well, you could contact us at racial equity at sjpla.org. I'm going to put that in the chat.
I got
But
it.
if you have any questions, contact us there. We appreciate you coming here today and joining us. We hope to see your eligibility form in the next couple weeks. Thank you
Bye,
so much.
everyone.
Thanks, Robin. Bye.
Thank you.